Australia, a land of sun, sea, and wide open spaces. But beneath the veneer of modern life lies a forgotten history, a history forged in the white-hot crucible of industry. From the deepest sugarcane fields of Queensland to the frosty valleys of Tasmania, the nation's factories, mills, and workshops were once cathedrals of progress. They were places of deafening noise, back-breaking labor, and the constant threat of lethal danger. When the machinery fell silent, the workers left, and the doors slammed shut, something remained behind. Not just dust and rust, but a tangible, cold, and often violent energy. These colossal, abandoned structures are now monuments to sorrow, death, and unfinished work. Places where the ghosts of industry clock in for an eternal, restless shift. This is the sound of Australia's industrial past refusing to die. We explore the true, chilling details of the most haunted mills and factories across the continent. Prepare to enter the Bradmill Factory, the Lithgow Small Arms Factory, the Fyansford Mill, and more. Because in these derelict places, the night shift never truly ends. 1. Bradmill Factory, Yarraville, Victoria. In the heart of Yarraville, Victoria, stands the colossal, silent skeleton of the Bradmill Denim Factory. Before the chill of abandonment settled, this was a powerhouse. For 5 decades, this factory was an unstoppable industrial giant, the very pulse of Australian textile production. 36 million square meters of cotton denim a year, enough to clothe a nation, spun within these walls. It was a place of booming looms, shared lives, and a vibrant community forging friendships amidst the deafening roar of machinery. The history of Bradmill is one of enterprise and human effort. But when the looms fell silent in 2007, a new, darker life began. This sprawling site, abandoned and decaying, became a magnet for the shadows. It quickly transformed from a monument to industry into a playground for the reckless and the occult. Urban explorers and locals have chronicled a history after the closing that is steeped in unsettling, real-life incidents. The transition from a working factory to a haunted ground was marked by alarming encounters. People venturing into the cavernous, multi-story mill part of the factory report scenes that defy rational explanation. They speak of stumbling upon fresh pools of blood on the warehouse floors, a terrifying sign of something violent that happened, not decades ago, but recently. The most chilling encounters, however, point to something much more sinister. Witnesses have described clandestine, unsettling gatherings within the factory's vast spaces. Picture this. Late at night, in the shadows of the machinery, figures gathered around a flickering bonfire, the air heavy with the sound of ominous, loud music. From a distance, observers have noted people with blood running down their arms, seemingly engaged in strange, ritualistic acts, even throwing what appeared to be knives into the fire. But perhaps the most petrifying experience is reported from the upper levels, particularly near the towering, silent staircases. Explorers attempting to reach the factory's heights have been stopped cold. Just 10 meters away, in the deep dark, 2 figures, seated cross-legged, staring at each other with a single candle between them, appear. They sit in complete silence, but somehow know they are being watched. This isn't just a ghost story. It's a feeling of invading a very real, very dark space. The sheer scale of the derelict building seems to trap the echoes of human trauma and unsettling recent history, leaving an unmistakable atmosphere of dread. 2. Fyansford Paper Mill, Geelong, Victoria. Nestled by the picturesque Barwon River in Geelong, the Fyansford Paper Mill complex has a history tied to the raw power of nature. Established near the dramatic Buckley Falls, the mill began operations in 1895, first milling flour, then shifting to plaster of Paris, and finally becoming a vital paper producer. It was an industrial beacon whose life depended on harnessing the river's energy through an extensive, century-old water race, a massive stone channel built to feed the mills. This place was a testament to industry and engineering until it fell silent, its working life concluding in the late 1990s. The atmosphere after closure, however, transformed this scenic spot into a site of unsettling mystery and real-life, inexplicable incidents. While many haunted places recount ghosts of the distant past, Fyansford has a history of trouble in the now. The abandoned industrial structure, coupled with the natural yet treacherous landscape of the falls and the water race, seems to draw a complex kind of malevolence. Locals and authorities have been baffled by recurring, real-world acts of sabotage and strange events. The focus of this activity is often the historic water race. In a truly bizarre incident, the 145-year-old water race wall was intentionally breached by what was suspected to be a small explosive device. A mystery sandbag was photographed hanging from the breach, suggesting a second failed explosive charge, only to mysteriously vanish 2 days later. Who would use explosives on an old mill's water source, and why did the evidence disappear without a trace? Beyond the inexplicable sabotage, the atmosphere itself is profoundly disturbing. Geelong is ripe with tales of the paranormal, and the mill's shadow seems to attract strange, violent energy. While no single prominent ghost is attached to the mill, the sheer sense of foreboding, the mysterious destruction of the historic infrastructure, and the general feeling of a place where things go very, very wrong make Fyansford a nexus for unsettling experiences. Visitors to the isolated areas near the falls and the abandoned structures often report feeling overwhelmingly watched or a sudden, unexplained fear, as if the land and the broken machinery are fighting back against human intrusion. The mill's quiet, broken state is an illusion masking a constant, unseen tension. 3. CSR Sugar Mill, Mackay, Queensland. In the vast, fertile pioneer valley of Mackay, Queensland, the history of the CSR Sugar Mill is intertwined with the very genesis of the state's sugar industry. Mackay was chosen as the sugar capital, and between the 1860s and the early 1900s, dozens of mills dotted the landscape. These were places of backbreaking, vital labor, transforming cane into a global commodity. Today, many of these 39 original mills are gone, leaving behind only scattered ruins and concrete foundations. The only imposing monument is the large, single brick chimney, the sole surviving stack of the Richmond Mill, a stoic, brick sentinel against the endless cane fields. The era of sugar production in Queensland, particularly in the 19th and early 20th centuries, was marked by the controversial and tragic use of Kanaka labor. Pacific Islanders brought, often against their will, to work the fields and the mills. This is the dark, foundational history that permeates the air around these ruins. The sheer hardship, the overwhelming tropical heat, and the tragic death toll associated with this forced labor are the untold stories that cling to the mill's remaining foundations. Unlike locations known for singular ghost sightings, the abandoned CSR mill sites, such as the one marked by the Grand Chimney, are said to be haunted by a pervasive, collective sorrow. The immense physical and emotional trauma inflicted upon the workers in this intense industrial environment seems to have left an indelible stain on the very soil. Visitors who explore the sun-baked, deserted ruins report a profound, inescapable sense of oppression and sadness. There are no clear specters, but rather an overwhelming emotional residue that chills even the hottest Queensland afternoon. People describe an almost unbearable heaviness, an invisible pressure that seems to be the echo of the suffering masses who toiled and died here. Paranormal investigators believe that the energy is rooted in the tragic, collective fate of the Kanaka workers, souls unable to find rest due to the violent uprooting and devastating hardship of their lives. It's an haunting that is less about a single chain-rattling ghost and more about the historical trauma of the land itself. The silent chimney stands as a beacon for these restless energies, a reminder of the thousands of silent histories buried beneath the swaying cane. When the wind blows through the deserted foundations, some claim it carries more than just the rustle of the dry grass. It carries the mournful whispers of the past, crying out from the forgotten, unmarked graves. 4. Adelaide Steam Mill, Old Flour Mill, Adelaide, South Australia. The Adelaide Steam Mill, or Old Flour Mill complex in South Australia, typified by places like the historic Harts Mill, represents one of the earliest and most vital industries in the colony. Established as early as 1845, these towering stone structures were the engine rooms of early South Australian independence, turning locally grown grain into the flour that fed a rapidly growing population. These early mills, initially water-powered and later fueled by steam, were massive multi-story operations, featuring complex internal timber structures, some of the tallest timber-framed buildings in Australia. The industrial setting was inherently hazardous. The grinding process generated huge amounts of fine, volatile dust, especially in areas like the smut room and dust room, used for cleaning the wheat. This danger resulted in a terrifying recurring history. Fire. The flammable dust led to numerous devastating fires that would rip through the timber-framed mills, sometimes gutting them completely, as happened at Hart's Mill in 1905. These blazes claimed lives and severely injured workers, leaving a legacy of sudden, violent deaths. The post-haunted history is one of restless energy tied directly to these traumatic, fiery events. The mill sites are notorious for high levels of paranormal activity, centered on the fear, panic, and pain of those who died in the sudden infernos. Paranormal investigation teams have documented numerous real incidents. The most frequent is the sense of being overwhelmed by a sudden, intense heat in areas where there is no heat source. A palpable, terrifying memory of the fire itself. Workers and visitors have reported the unnerving sensation of being grabbed or shoved from behind, a clear echo of the panic-stricken scramble to escape the rapidly spreading flames. The ghost of a solitary mill worker is also a common encounter. Witnesses describe seeing a translucent figure, often appearing confused and panicked, in the upper reaches of the old mill structures, perhaps unable to find his way out. The phantom seems tied to the moment of his death, forever searching for an exit that no longer exists in his time. The residual atmosphere is one of profound anxiety and the indelible terror of being trapped within the towering wooden structure as the flames devoured everything. The Adelaide steam mill is a chilling monument to the fiery price of early industrial progress. 5. The Cascade Brewery Old Sections, Hobart, Tasmania. Down in Hobart, Tasmania, at the foot of Mount Wellington, stands the Cascade Brewery, a beautiful yet imposing industrial complex. Its history, dating back to 1824, is rooted not just in brewing, but in the harsh reality of Van Diemen's Land. Founder Peter de Graves began with a sawmill, but facing legal battles and debt, he was jailed for 5 years. While incarcerated, he conceived the brewery, knowing his location had access to the purest water. The foundational walls of the earliest sections, which resemble a Gothic horror penitentiary, were built using convict labor. This is the history before the Hauntings, a mix of entrepreneurial vision, debtor's prison, and forced convict servitude. The old sections, built on this foundation of hard labor and confinement, are where the shadow of the past is strongest. This is not the site of a cheerful modern tasting room. It's a place where the air hangs heavy with the residual trauma of its origins. The haunted history is concentrated in the oldest, darkest, and often bricked-off sections, the stone cellars and the original walls where convicts toiled. The energy is overwhelmingly male. Real-life paranormal experiences have been documented by staff and security over decades, solidifying its reputation as one of Tasmania's most actively haunted sites. Security guards working alone in the deep cellars report the distinct, unmistakable sound of heavy iron chains being dragged across the stone floor, a gruesome reminder of the convicts who were shackled while they labored. Yet, when the guards check, nothing is there but cold stone. One of the most intense encounters involves the alleged presence of Peter de Graves himself. The story goes that he is sometimes seen as a shadowy figure near the old water wheel or the original office spaces, forever watching over his legacy. But the most terrifying presence is a less specific, more aggressive male spirit. People have reported feeling sudden, sharp pushes from an unseen force, or an overwhelming, crushing sensation of being pressed against the wall in the narrow old corridors, the spectral echo of a guard's brutality or a convict's desperate struggle. The Cascade Brewery's old section is haunted by the echoes of confinement and the violent imposition of will, leaving an indelible mark on the atmosphere of this iconic, yet deeply troubled site. 6. Lithgow Small Arms Factory, Lithgow, New South Wales. The Lithgow Small Arms Factory in New South Wales is not just a factory, it is a monument to Australian military history. Established in 1912, This was the nation's primary arsenal, the birthplace of the rifles, machine guns, and equipment that armed our soldiers through 2 world wars and beyond. Before it became haunted, this was a vibrant, essential operation employing thousands, a precise, disciplined, and often dangerous place where the fate of soldiers on the front lines was decided by the quality of the machinery. The history is one of immense national pride, but also one of inherent risk and human error. The danger inherent in a massive metalworking facility led to accidents, injuries, and deaths. The atmosphere in the massive, echoing buildings today is not one of peaceful retirement, but of frantic, ghostly continuation. The history after the hauntings became defined by persistent, perplexing paranormal activity that seems tied to the old machinery itself. The real haunted incidents here involve the phantom workers who never left. Security guards and maintenance crews, who are the only people in the factory after hours, have documented a chilling recurrence of spectral industrial activity. They report being completely alone, yet hearing the distinct heavy sound of massive machinery operating from distant empty rooms. The phantom lathes and presses grinding and stamping with impossible force. But the most specific and famous encounter involves the very essence of the factory, the work. Guards have seen on multiple occasions the shadowy, translucent figure of a lone factory worker bent over an old, silent machine. He appears to be working meticulously, his hands moving over the controls of a lathe that has been cold and still for decades. When the guard approaches, the figure simply fades, leaving behind only the lingering smell of old, burnt oil and metal shavings. A scent that should not exist in the dust of a deactivated plant. This ghost is not threatening, but obsessively driven, compelled to continue his shift long after his death. The Lithgow Small Arms Factory is haunted by the echoes of dedication and discipline, a place where the work was so vital that some souls remain forever bound to the roar of the machines. 7. Rosella Cannery, Old Factory, Richmond, Victoria. The Rosella Cannery in Richmond, Victoria, holds a cherished place in Australian domestic history. Rosella was a household name, synonymous with preserves, sauces, and canned goods. Before its closure, this was a massive, bustling industrial hive, a place where tons of produce were rushed from loading docks to high-speed canning lines. The factory's history is one of fast-paced, repetitive, and often noisy work, employing many local women over its active years, until the site eventually shut down, leaving behind a vast, dark, and empty industrial shell. The history after abandonment is where the sweet smell of preserves turns sour. The large, empty brick structure, now a silent vacuum, is said to be haunted by a specific, persistent, and intensely auditory presence. Real incidents have been experienced by caretakers and urban explorers who dare to enter the suffocating darkness of the long deactivated floors. The most frequently reported and chilling encounters involve the unsettling sounds that emanate from the empty expanse of the factory floor. People describe hearing the sharp, distinctive rattle of conveyor belts operating and the high-speed clanging of metal on metal, the distinct acoustic blueprint of the canning process, all at full tilt. You hear the deafening sound of a shift in progress, yet the factory is dark, silent, and the machinery is cold. Beyond the industrial ghosts, there are the more personal apparitions. One particular incident involves a former Rosella employee who was tragically killed in a workplace accident. He is thought to be the source of a lingering, malevolent energy in one of the old storage sections. Witnesses have felt an intense, sharp drop in temperature, followed by the terrifying sensation of being suffocated or pressed upon by an unseen presence. The Rosella Cannery is a paradox, a ghost factory where the sounds of life, the noise of industry, are the most terrifying evidence of its haunting. The relentless phantom symphony of the canning line continues its endless shift, forever echoing the pace of a life consumed by the machine. 8. Mayfield Wool Mill, Launceston, Tasmania. The Mayfield Wool Mill in Launceston, Tasmania, stands as a decaying monument to the island's vital wool and textile industry. Established in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, this massive mill processed the raw fleece from Tasmania's sheep farms, transforming it into fabric. Before it became haunted, the mill was filled with the deafening clamor of looms, the heat of the processing machinery, and the unique, pungent aroma of lanolin and dyed wool. It was a place of hard work, where dangers, from crushing machinery to the ever-present risk of fire, were commonplace. The history of the Hauntings is inextricably linked to the intense heat, the repetitive nature of the work, and the fatal accidents that occurred within its deep stone walls. Today, the mill is a desolate, silent shell, yet it is reportedly one of the most chillingly active paranormal locations in Tasmania. The real-life incidents reported here focus on a specific powerful entity known as the White Lady, or the Weeping Woman. This female spectre is believed to be the ghost of a worker who either died tragically in a mill accident or perhaps perished in a devastating fire that occurred during the mill's operation. She is reportedly not malevolent, but overwhelmingly sorrowful. The encounters are unnervingly clear. Witnesses, including local explorers and former caretakers, have reported seeing the full-bodied apparition of a woman in an old-fashioned pale garment, often standing near the large broken windows or wandering through the vast, empty sorting halls. The most persistent report is the profound, overwhelming sound of inconsolable weeping and humming, echoing from rooms known to be completely empty. This spectral presence seems trapped in an eternal cycle of grief, her sorrow clinging to the heavy, dusty air. Beyond the White Lady, strange, random cold spots and unexplained movements of debris are common, as if the mill is still violently shaking with the force of its phantom machinery. The Mayfield wool mill is a chilling reminder that the pain of the past can be woven into the very structure of a building, leaving behind a spirit whose only purpose is to mourn. 9. Oldfelt Factory, Cobden, Victoria. The Oldfelt Factory in the small rural town of Cobden, Victoria, is a deceptively unassuming location with a deeply disturbing history. This factory was involved in the niche, but necessary, industry of felt production, turning natural fibers into robust materials. Before its haunting history began, it was a typical small-town industrial site, hot, dusty, and remote. Its true history is shrouded in the isolation of its location, but the lingering whispers suggest a far more sinister past than simple felt production. The small, remote factory is not plagued by industrial ghosts, but by something more specific and violent. Locals claim that the building's deep seclusion made it an ideal site for things that polite society did not want to see. The post-haunted history is saturated with unsettling, real-life incidents reported by those who have dared to trespass or work near the abandoned structure. The most compelling and frequent incidents center around the factory's alleged connection to a dark, hidden tragedy: the suspected murder and subsequent dumping of a body within the factory walls decades ago. Though official records are sparse, the pervasive feeling of violence is undeniable. Witnesses describe the terrifying experience of encountering an intensely aggressive, purely malevolent energy. It's not just an uneasy feeling, it is physical. People have been subjected to sudden, violent bursts of paranormal activity, including objects being violently thrown across rooms, loud, unnatural growls or shouts from empty corners, and the feeling of being physically slapped or struck by an unseen force. The darkness inside the factory is absolute, and the energy seems determined to drive away any human presence. The feeling is less about a lingering spirit, and more about a trapped, raging entity connected to a forgotten, heinous crime. The Oldfelt Factory in Cobden remains a highly secretive and volatile location, a small, isolated industrial ruin that holds the dark secret of a life violently taken. 10. Port Melbourne Railway Workshops and Factories, Victoria. The Port Melbourne Railway Workshops and Factories in Victoria were, for decades, a massive, vital hub of the state's industrial power. This sprawling complex was responsible for the construction, repair, and maintenance of thousands of railway carriages and locomotives. Before the hauntings, this was a place of deafening noise, enormous steel fabrication, and intense pressure, a world of steam, oil, and tireless human labor. The very existence of this site was tied to massive, powerful, and inherently dangerous machinery. The closure of the workshops left behind vast, echoing sheds and kilometre upon kilometre of silent, rusted tracks. The history after abandonment is rife with the paranormal, and the hauntings are connected directly to the two great risks of the railway industry: accidents and fires. The real-life paranormal incidents here are both vast and localized. Staff and security who maintain the remaining structures report two major categories of activity. First, the environmental haunting, the profound, intense cold spots that refuse to dissipate, the sudden rush of air that has no source, and the persistent, phantom metallic smells that suggest hot, running machinery. The second, and most chilling, is the human element. The vast shed areas, particularly the ones that once housed the blacksmith and metalworking facilities, are haunted by the echo of a tragic past. People have encountered the spectral figure of a railway worker, typically appearing near the old tracks or within the darkest sheds. He is often seen and then instantly vanishes. But the most famous and frightening recurring incident involves the persistent, inexplicable sound of a loud, desperate shout, or a human scream that seems to originate from the area near the old train maintenance pits. This is believed to be the spectral echo of a fatal accident, a worker crushed or trapped by the massive moving steel. The sheer scale and desolation of the Port Melbourne railway workshops amplify this terror, making it a chilling nexus where the raw power of industry has forever trapped the pain of its victims. We have walked the rusted floors of Australia's industrial ghosts, from the vast Port Melbourne railway workshops to the isolated terror of the Oldfelt factory in Cobden. These are the places where human ambition met its dark end, where the speed of the machine and the violence of labor left an indelible stain on the stone and the steel. The hauntings of these mills are more than simple ghost stories. They are the terrifying echoes of real history, the pain of forced labor, the terror of fire, and the final violent moments of lives consumed by the industrial beast. They stand as silent, colossal reminders that some souls are so intrinsically bound to their work or their trauma that they are doomed to repeat their final moments forever. Whisper chorus faint beneath. If you listen closely to the silence of the night, you might just hear the phantom clang of a conveyor belt, the mournful cry of a whistle, or the desperate footsteps of a worker fleeing a fire. They are still here, waiting,